Let's see. Good afternoon. Almost good night. It's almost 6 p.m. here in Fort Worth, Texas. Um, Back here is my Dell computer, the inexpensive one, but it's been working fine. I did have some, little trouble with it that I managed to eventually fix, but nothing major. Um, I've got this 34-inch monitor hooked to it, LG monitor. Also, I've got 4 or 5 uh, stands for holding monitors. So I've finally put one of them together again, and I've got it sitting on that. But the monitor, that's fine. That monitor stand was one that was inexpensive and very easy to assemble. And now it doesn't do all the fancy stuff, but it'll go up or I can make it go up or down, and that seems to be about right for me. Um, I think I've got, yeah. I think this is the Logitech C920, I think, camera that's hooked up right here for this, computer. And we're not using this computer for this broadcast. We're using the, um, wait a minute, yeah, using a Beelink computer for this. And this is using the, uh, which camera is that? I forget. It will come to me eventually. Um, I cleared this area over here. I have a printer here. I hate printer. I've never really, well, I take that back. Um, anyway, I've had trouble with printers. This one is no different. It's a Canon. And it just does weird stuff. I think that I've got the driver installed for this monitor, or for this printer. But I think if I use, and I think I tried it, if I use Office, or whatever they call it, Microsoft Office, or whatever that has all those programs, I think if I use the printer driver for that, for this, I think I would have a great improvement and no trouble at all. But so what else? What's on the screen right now? Oh, okay. Over here is this. And someplace on the settings for YouTube, they have this thing that shall we call him or her, the systop, or the whatever. So this at the top says Jim Howard is a pioneer in the field of online communications. He got his first computer in 1978 and set up a computer bulletin board system, BBS, in 1982, etc. Now that came from AI, artificial intelligence. Now I have used some of that information in different places, but it pulled it all together for me, and I'm very happy with it. Now this thing that's there you don't see, because this is for the settings of a person who's running a YouTube, and you can go in there and put in this information, and then that shows up in different places when you go various places. Now the first one on here is a gift for Jim Howard. Okay. Yeah, this is things that I would really like to have that I really can't afford. Although what I've been doing for a long time, and I need to get around to it, and I'm going to try to do that tonight. I throw things in there that I want to buy, I mean, it can be something really inexpensive, something that I want to add. But what I need to do is create a new list. That's not a gift list, but it's a list of things that I want to be able to pull back up on the screen. Like these monitors that I have. From time to time I'm looking at the specs or whatever. And I'd rather have them in another list, but a list here that you all could go to if you wanted to for some reason. And then I'd like to have a list of things that I purchased and am using, or maybe I'm not using anymore, but things that I purchased and that I really liked. Things that and not necessarily computer, type of equipment. It could be other stuff that I found, to be good, such as this fragrance here or whatever. I talked about that in one of the videos. And then also these bags, trash bags or whatever, work out really well. I've got in this room 3. I'm making movements with me. I've got okay, I got an email from somebody. I think that's an email. I'm having cataract surgery done in January. In a few days, I've got to go to my regular doctor's office. They're not going to do a regular exam on me. They're going to fill out a form. Well, they're going to probably ask me some questions or whatever, but they're going to fill out a form that has to go to the, my feeling is, go to a doctor once every 6 months or something, It's not showing up at doctor's office all the time. So I put stuff off because I figure, okay, I've already seen a doctor for this 6 months or something, But I want to put stuff like this in there. What would be a good category for that, by the way? Oh, you can't see it, okay. So I need a title for things that are, useful that I found good. Listerine is not one of those. Listerine burns like hell when I try to gargle with it or whatever. In fact, I've stopped. I mean, it really burns my tongue, especially. I guess it's my tongue. And but I've got to find maybe a replacement for that. Then I would put I don't think it has to. I think Listerine, I'm guessing. Maybe I'm, I think, they made a product and then they thought, what would make people really buy this? And let's put something in there that will burn. It'll be, really, and then they're going to think that kills, bacteria and all that kind of stuff because it's burning, and I think that's honestly what they're, So I want to have some categories that I'm finding. It's been a mistake, me using, like, gift list to throw things in there that I, want, or, I think. Although, please, if you're rich, please do come over here and purchase me one of these 2 items that is in this gift list for Jim Howard. Now, you'll see they're both, at this time, Apple computers, and I'd really like to have the $1,000 one because it's a desktop. And it would really, really be good, I think, for, much better than what I'm using now and all that kind of stuff. But since I can't afford, $1,000, I've got this Apple iPad 9th generation on my list. Now, I might be able to come up with the price of it someday. I don't know when. Not today and not this month. Now, the insurance company, health insurance, they're paying for most of the stuff with my laser operations that I'm going to have, the two that I'm going to have for my eyes. Did I say laser? Cataract surgeries. In my insurance company, I have, health insurance. But there are some items that it doesn't pay for, and but anyway, so I wouldn't be able to have the surgery if I didn't have health insurance. Wouldn't have health insurance if it wasn't for Franklin D. Roosevelt and a bunch of Democratic presidents and Congresses or whatever. And then I get Social Security. I get Social Security. I worked all my life and usually had 2 jobs. And of course, maybe I would have done things differently. Oh, you can't see what's going on here. Okay. I usually worked 1 full-time job and a part-time job most of my life. I worked for a hospital for let's see, I think it was 18 years. Was that it? I worked hospital security for 30 years, but I worked at one hospital for 18 years. And I get for that 18 years, I get a pension of, I think it's $75. I think it's, I can't remember, let's see. No, I think it may be $125. And maybe it's $175. Can't remember now. Not a good sign. The point I wanted to make was, okay, that's for 18 years working at a hospital, 40 hours a week. I mean, there was sometimes overtime, but 40 hours a week, and I think it's $175 a month that I get. Okay. I get Social Security. It comes to, I think, $1,400 a month. That's health care, or that's a pension plan. If it wasn't for the, Social Security plan or whatever, what kind of a pension do you think I would have? Since I worked 18 years for a hospital and I'm getting 175, so I worked altogether 30 years hospital security. So, in other words, I would have a very small pension, not enough to live on, not enough to have cataract surgery done, and not enough to have health insurance or anything else. So, of course, there's a large number of people. There's a political party here in the United States that doesn't think that the government should help people, or that there should be, insurance plans or health care plans or anything like that. They feel like, I guess, everybody should be on their own. The American way, huh? And of course, our health care in the United States, we have good health care. We have, the CAT scanners, and you have all the, of course, Japan and UK and Canada and other places have that, good equipment. A lot of places do. But Canada, the UK, Sweden, all these other countries, the health care is much better than what we have in the United States because of the political situation here in the United States. It's unfortunate. I've mentioned this before. I think that we should have a system set up where the profits, not the profits, not all of the profits, but, you know, the pharmaceutical corporation, they make tons and tons of money. And there are other places like that that make, and I'm not saying, to take them over like a communist party or something might do, but instead of the profits going, to the executives that are making, making $25 million or more or something, whatever they make, the massive amount of money that they make, it should be a reason, and if you want to think of it as them paying, they should just pay more taxes. They should be paying more taxes. They should be giving less money to the, members of Congress and to people running for president and that kind of stuff. And that money should be going into, Social Security, Medicare, and those kind of things. And we'd all be sharing benefits. I think Alaska, no, I wouldn't want to live in Alaska. It's cold, for one thing. But I think that it's expensive. Things are expensive because a lot of things have to be hauled there, but I think that the oil reserves, and I'm not sure what else, the money from that each year, I don't know how they work it out, but it goes to, citizens of people who live in Alaska. They get that. The government, gives it. They also have, of course, their estate, so they also have Social Security, Medicare, and all these kind of things. But they get that. That ought to be the situation down here in, the 50 states. Well, one of them's up there and one's in Hawaii. Hawaii, actually, I think, of course, man, they got hit bad with storms and things. But Alaska, Hawaii, they're a very liberal state, and a lot of benefits and things go to them. It's just the other 48 states or whatever that are getting screwed. There is so much money being made that now people, Americans complain, or when I say Americans, it could be Canada, Mexico, whatever, but United States. They complain about, taxes and all this kind of things. The government should be, taking care of their citizens, not taking care of the top, because those people can take care of themselves, the top 1% or 2% or whatever that number is up there who, just have so much money they don't know what to fucking do with it. Well, they know what to do with it. They give it to the political parties that they think are going to, make them richer, and that are going to break up unions and, that they think about that kind of stuff. But anyway, this is my political rambling, I guess. I've had people complain, and justifiably, that, a lot of YouTube sites that somebody goes to, they go to a YouTube site that maybe somebody takes care of possums or something like that, or raccoons or whatever, or maybe they, I've watched a lot of those sites that talk about aircraft crashes and things like that, and they explain what happened, pulling in good information, from good sources and things, and I've watched a bunch of those. We all like certain things, This site, my site, you probably don't know what you're going to get. Well, a bunch of you are probably saying, a bunch of bullshit's what we're going to get. But it's just whatever is going on in my life, and I've been doing this for so long. It was back when I was married, and when then when I got divorced, I mean, there was then when I was working a place where the director of security, at a hospital was racist and just actually I mentioned this before. Whatever it is, he suffered. I found out later. I just found out in the last few years. Well, I just found out since Trump took office, maybe slightly before Trump took office. But Trump has some major, major problems. But he's also one thing. Donald Trump is unbelievably stupid. That's for one thing that he has. This director of security at the hospital, and I worked there for 6 years, I think. I think it was 6 years. I think. And I worked for him, and he was extremely smart. But he did really stupid things. And it was strange. And I stuck around for a number of reasons there because I was able to accomplish a lot of things. And he, by promoting me and everything that he did, I got to make changes to the hospital, things that needed to be fixed for a long time. But that director of security, who was very smart, I mean, he wrote a manual, for the security officers at the, for the hospital and for the security officers, and he came up with a lot of things. And he did a lot of good things, but then he did the most unbelievably stupid things. And if I had known about, whatever, and I don't even know what Trump's problem is. I mean, when they were talking about his mental health, Trump, how stupid he is, and his mental health problems, I didn't understand it really. I knew it was true, and I realized, hey, this director of security that I worked for, he had the same problem, but he was smart, and Trump is stupid. And if I had known back then, I was offered some other jobs. And I kind of stayed through that sort of bad situation. That the director of security that I said was so smart, he wanted to, and he was a retired officer. He wasn't injured in the line of duty. Well, I guess he was in the military, but he wasn't in combat or anything like that. But he had everybody in the vehicle, everybody in the car with him died, and the drunk driver crashed into the car, and they were all killed. At least that's what he said. And he ended up with a really bad leg that a lot of times he was, after all those years, would end up in the hospital as a patient. But if I had known, I wouldn't have stuck around. I would have taken one of the other jobs that I was offered, security officer's job at the Johnson County Community College, and I'd have taken things like that. But I stuck around, and I kind of thought, when I did my grievances, and I did grievances against the director of security, and I won them all, and changes were made, and he was told, it came down hard several times on the, director of security. Even though the supervisor over him and over security and other non-medical parts of the hospital was buddy-buddy with the director of security, but still, when I did my grievances, they tried to straighten him out, but he was one of the things that I think the same in a way between these two men was, and some of the security officers that worked there, they figured it out. And that was, if you want, okay, we had a guy that worked at the hospital, worked at that hospital, who was mentally unbalanced, and we were told that be very careful about this employee. You know, he, you know, and I think they were afraid to. I think they were afraid to fire him. So he he went to this employee. He worked in plant operations. The maintenance of the hospital and all that type of stuff. Boiler room, boilers and all that kind of stuff. And this one guy was, and so what he did, anyway, the director of security also told us, well, that was the first way I think we learned about, hey, this guy is dangerous, be very careful when you're dealing with this guy. And this guy then went to the director of security. I think he might have been carrying a gun into the hospital himself. I never saw him, taking a gun into the hospital or whatever. A handgun or any kind of a gun. But I mean, going in with a that would have been kind of noticeable. But I bet you he was taking a gun in with him because anyway, then this employee, he goes to the director of security. And he says, I have a gun in my car, but I can't bring it into the hospital, and I don't like leaving it in the car. Would it be okay if I brought it into the hospital and then put it in my locker? Now, no way. The guy would have done that is said, Mr. Ross, I know you don't have the authority. Probably he was smart enough. This guy was crazy, but I think he's probably smart enough to say, oh, I know that you don't have the authority. You couldn't. What do you mean? I don't, Well, certainly I can authorize that, So then when we have one of our departmental meetings every 3 months or something, the director of security says, oh, by the way, let's say Bob Smith. That's not his real name. The crazy employee, I mean, it's really not his. I'm not trying to be funny or anything. So anyway, he says, by the way, I just wanted to let you know that Bob Smith, came to me and he said that, he was having to leave his gun in the car, because he's not allowed to bring it in. And he asked me if it would be okay if he, could bring it in and lock it up in his locker. And I gave him permission, so he asked permission, and I was like, "Oh, Jesus fucking Christ," and so other people, do things. Even some security officers, which I really hated, that they. I'm not sure if they realized him. Or if they just figured it out, well, if I ask him this, and so anyway, I got sidetracked on this somehow, but I've only been talking, boring you to death for only 28 minutes, but I am going to end it here in a little bit. I have a bunch of work that I need to do. Oh, that's one thing I don't know if that's still available. Let me see. Let me go over to, no, not breaking news. Let's see here. No, there was something else, but I think I've closed it down. What's going on in Israel and Palestine, I guess. And everywhere. There's just so much going on. Things are so bad in a lot of the world. The Ukraine and Russia. I mean, Russia is being, like Nazi Germany or whatever. But the stuff being done, the stuff being done, I mean, it's happening to the, the Russian people. I saw a thing the other day that said, I think it was that experts said that 85% of the Russia's military, I guess talking mainly about their tank corps and their, you know, infantry, and I'm not sure if it's airborne or what, but 85% of those employees or those people who were the Russian military training and doing whatever they were doing. 85% of those people died, and Russia has gone into prisons. They're saying, they're not saying, and military intelligence is saying that they've taken out the worst of the worst from the prisons, the murderers and rapists and everything else, and running them through some very fast training and sending them out, And then, families, well, what about those families of, those people who were serving in the Russian military, and boom, they're dead, or disabled really badly or something. Anyway, I'm liking my setup here right now. Both these computers. I would like to go. I'm 82 though. I would like to go with an Apple computer. I don't think I've actually ever touched a Apple cell phone, even a cell phone. That's not that I'm back in the early days of, which is talked about in, I've talked about it repeatedly, but also in BBS, the documentary. It's talked about a lot. It's not because I hate Apple. It's not, it just, I went a different direction. Back then it was called IBM computer or PC computer. Then you had, Apple computers and stuff like it. But it's, the Windows, it's the, Microsoft and that type of stuff branch. And so even to show you, when I went to Washington, D.C. for 2 weeks to be with my oldest daughter, because I had never been to the northeast part of the United States. I had never been to Washington, D.C., and I've always been even when I was in grade school, following politics and all that type of stuff, and and when I watched the news, they'd always be showing Washington D.C. and talking about it, things that happen at Congress, the Supreme Court, everything. So I went there for 2 weeks, and to visit with my oldest daughter and her husband. My daughter is into, Apple, cell phone. And I'm not sure if I don't think she has. Well, she has a computer. I don't know, anyway. But she's an Apple person. And so when I was there, she was talking to me, and we were talking, the three of us, her husband and, her and myself. And she said, oh, and I said, I've never even touched an Apple device. Or whatever. Oh, here. And she was making the videos she was making them with her Apple phone. And then when we came back, to their place, she would just sit there, okay. And that's the videos you'll see on here. I mean, she edited them, And I wow, that is amazing. But when she tried to hand it to me, I said, no, I don't want to touch it because I'm sure I would like it. And I just don't want to change, and I really can't afford to change, And so, but at this point, I still can't afford to change, but I've got them on my wish list. But I think at this point, even though I'm 82, I think I'd really like to use an Apple computer and see what I could do with it. Because, by the way, my daughter, I started in 1982, I think it was, with my bulletin board system, 1982. So, my oldest daughter, I gave my ex-wife and my kids, after I was divorced, or we were divorced or whatever, gave them a computer, and they were using that. And LaDonna had a bulletin board system going, and her friends had a bulletin board system going because of whatever. But she has, and the company that or the union, a big union that she worked for, and she didn't really have any real training in, computers, but they had a major overhaul of their computer system at this big union that if you're in the United States, that you've heard about. And they put her in charge of making some major changes to their computer system. And she said to the president of the union, the president of the union said, LaDonna, I want you to take on this project, and it's big and whatever. And LaDonna said, I don't think I'm up to it. I think you could find somebody better. And the president of the union said, no, you can do it. I know you can do it. And LaDonna did, do their computer system. I'm not sure exactly what she did, but I actually have never touched. Oh, I take that back. I did purchase it was their small Palm device, not the Palm, whatever, that's a real small one. And I talked about that, and I think you see the video of it. I think me trying to set it up or something, or at least me talking about it. I couldn't get it to work because, well, two things happened. When I got it, and I have arthritis really bad, and I have it in my shoulders and my neck, and I've got it bad. Reminds me, take my naproxen here in a little while for pain. But where was I? Well, anyway, I'm actually sitting here and going through my brain. Okay, I've told that story a million times, and I should be thinking about this. And no, I don't. I would love it if I was capable of doing, like having a script, except I'm not good at reading off of scripts, or, in life when I began, there were certain things I didn't think that I could do. And I found out that I could do some of those things and do some of the things well. But I found out, like, one is, if you wanted me to make a speech, and you gave me, the material, even if it was on a teleprompter or something, I wouldn't be any good at it. But just speaking, from what I know, I forget how the word just talking, I can do that well. And also I was like nervous about getting in front of a group of people. And I thought, well, I would never be, but I found out, no, when I know the subject, like at that one hospital, I was the security officer who usually about every Monday, or maybe every other Monday, new employees would have to have orientation for about a week, I think it was. And somebody from security had to go and explain things to them and answer any questions that they had. And some of this, and what I did as supervisor, and I made sure that each one of the people who worked the day shift, because it was done on the day shift, each one of them had to do it had to do it a few times, and then after that, so because they were nervous the first time, and then they, but I mean that's the type of, I could do that, and I could do. There was a meeting. The Board of Police Commissioners in Kansas City, Missouri, held a thing. The thing was filled, with people, and the director of security that I worked for, I didn't know he was going to be there, but he was there with other hospital security directors. They were fighting. They didn't want the police department to give any training. They wanted training, of course, and we got training, but they didn't want the police department to do any part of it. And same with, they didn't want, we went to the range and had to qualify every year. In the beginning, we went to a private range that certified us, whatever, the score that we got, and you had to get a certain score. But the Board of Commission and Police Commissioners was wanting us to use the police range every time, so they would have more control and everything. And the hospital security directors were against that type of stuff. But anyway, okay, I think I know where I'm heading. Oh, okay. So, I'm not a smart guy. I mean, I'm not as I'm smarter than Trump. Of course, just about everybody is. But I went to the and I just wanted to see the Board of Police Commissioners and see how one of these things went. I went to the city hall or whatever, and I'm there, had no intention of talking or asking a question or doing anything. And then the Board of Police Commissioners, or whoever was saying, okay, does anybody want to say something? And there was this guy, I didn't know who he was. It turned out he owned a small security patrol service, which I also did for about a little bit over a year. And I didn't know any of that. Anyway, so he got up and he said, well, I don't know, and he asked a question or whatever. And then there was a lawyer there who had been hired by Burns, Pinkerton, Wells Fargo, every guard company that there was. And I didn't know that, of course, I knew that happened, but I didn't know that the hospital directors of security had also hired this guy. Wouldn't have mattered to me. But anyway, so this lawyer, he ripped into this guy. And then I went ballistic. And then I put up my hand, and I got up. And so this other guy, I'm a night watchman, okay, a night watchman, who went to high school, and of course I went to community college too. But I didn't graduate from because I just went to the community college and took, all the courses that were, constitutional law and traffic accident investigation. I took all those courses, but I didn't take any of the courses where you need to get your, where you would get a degree then. But anyway, so this lawyer gets up and he rips into this guy, and then I got up, and I think I might have castrated the guy. I mean, I ripped into him, and he came. Then he made a mistake that he shouldn't have made by asking me, a question or two, and after the meeting, one of the members of the Board of Police Commissioners came over, a female, and she said, Mr. Howard, she said something about, that was really, great the way you were, what you said and how you said it and everything like that. She says, we're thinking about having an advisory board for, and she says, if we do, she says, I would like for you to be on it. And I said, well, I'd like to be on it too. And she said, okay. So I never ended up on it because I never started one. But anyway, people who hired that lawyer, Burns, Pinkerton, Wells Fargo, whatever, and the directors of hospital security or whatever, they all lost. And, so, but I found out that I knew before that I could speak when and I could be articulate when the time was, right, and when I knew the subject. Oh, an example, I see time going, but I was asked by, a long time ago, there was a college, a small college, I think, and teachers went there, they were already teachers, but they needed to get, credits and things in order to keep their, certification and that type of stuff. And so this college that I never heard of, which I think was like a corporation, but a college, whatever, they, during the summer, were having, a class, and it was on, and which was new. I mean, computers was, for people. Commoners like us was kind of rare. Of course, it was a little, further along at that point. But anyway, I was asked, I don't know how they come up, I guess they found a list of computer bulletin board systems or something. I don't know how they came up with it. They contacted me. And so before I went, the lady who was teaching the class, she said, we've got a computer set up here, and you could demonstrate to us and everything. And I said, fine, great. I won't have to bring anything. And so then I show up, and I come in, and one of the teachers comes over right away, Oh, Mr. Howard, I'm so sorry. I was, using the thing, here, and I erased the software. And, the teacher, the one that was teaching the class, too, she said, yes, and I said, oh, okay, well, I'll just have to improvise or something. But I knew right then, okay, this is not going to be good. And it wasn't good. So I should have gone, if I'd had advanced warning, if they'd have said, okay, there's no way we won't let you bring your equipment here or anything, Or if they'd have said, if it was just going to be me talking, then I would have thought before I went, and then I would have done something like what I'm doing here, except hopefully more, But those teachers are probably, after all these years, remember when that guy came to do the class? Because, I did everything. It was a disaster because I wasn't prepared. I was prepared to pull up my bulletin board system and then explain various things and that type of stuff and answer questions or whatever. And by the way, if you ever in a situation like I was in like that or whatever, if you're getting up in front of some teachers, if for some reason you have something that, and you're getting up, don't ever do what I do, so I got up in front of, by the blackboard and, what did I draw? I don't know what I did, Did I, you can't see me making my motions or whatever here. I went to the blackboard and I think I drew something, and, a computer and then a telephone line. I don't know what I did, but whatever it was, oh my God. Of course, they were very, very nice to me, and that kind of stuff. But, so, one thing, too, I don't think I've talked about this, but, I've talked about this about everything on here. Like, a company should want somebody like me to work for them, and probably like you, depending on what your area is and that type of stuff. You're an employee, and they should want you, and they should treat you right, and they should be prepared to respond to things that need to be changed and all that kind of stuff. But my father, when I was, I think, in grade school, well, he was a Boilermaker all his life. Before I was born, he was a Boilermaker. During World War II, him and my mother were Boilermakers. And during World War II, they built Liberty ships in California. And I was just a little baby, but later on I became a Boilermaker. Anyway, my father was a Boilermaker and union member, of course. And I've actually got someplace here, one of the few things, I've thrown a lot of stuff away because I've moved a whole bunch of times. And also I really couldn't afford to, when I moved, when I moved it was, stuff thrown in the back of the car, that was it. So a lot of stuff got thrown away. What was I going to say, though? Oh, one of the few things that I did save is I have my father's Boilermaker book, or whatever, identification, starting with, 1941 in California. And then my mother's, starting, she's listed, and I think it's in, not Los Angeles, there's a Rosie the Riveter Park out there in, I forget now where it is. I sent them, they set up a park to honor and remember Rosie, women during World War II that, worked in all kinds of places because the men were, in the military. And I sent them some material, and she has a, along with all the other women, whose names they could come up with and everything. There's a plaque or something out there for her, or her name's on a plaque or something or other. But what I have is my father's thing from in California, my mother's, unit identification, and then when I became a Boilermaker, I've got those, so I have 3 of them, and my idea was to put them on a wall, but I never did it because thank God nobody comes to see me. Anyway, guess that's it. I'm sorry if actually what I wanted to do, I never have a script, but sometimes I mark a website, and so that's sort of like I go there and then so something I wanted to do, and there was something I wanted to do this time, and that was I wanted to show you part of the parts you don't see of YouTube, and I wanted to show you that there are places where a YouTuber can enter in information that's going to appear, and I wanted to actually edit some of it out and let you see that. So anyway, thank you very much for watching.